Good morning, grab a coffee, and let's have a real conversation. You've likely spent the last 2 years hearing the same story. Just wait. Just hang on. The Fed will cut rates, and those 3% mortgages will come back. It's the great American waiting game. But here's the reality. That dream is hitting a wall with a name you rarely hear outside of central bank meetings. R-star. The R-star is what economists call the neutral rate, the economy's natural speed limit. It's the interest rate where the economy isn't growing too fast to cause inflation, but isn't slowing enough to cause a recession. For a decade, R-star was near zero and money was practically free. But that was the anomaly, not the destination. Today, R-star estimates have jumped significantly, sitting near 3.85%. When the floor of the entire economy moves up, everything built on top of it moves up too. That's why your 30-year mortgage is hovering near 7% even as inflation cools. The Fed isn't just fighting a fire anymore. They're realizing the ground beneath our feet has fundamentally shifted. We aren't going back to the basement. We've moved into a new house, and the rent is a lot higher. Why can't we return to the way things were in 2019? It's about the literal hardware of our world. We're seeing two massive structural shifts, the AI revolution and the reshoring of supply chains under the USMCA. These aren't just tech headlines. They are massive, hungry consumers of capital and energy that require a permanent shift in how we value money. Look at the data. AI infrastructure capital expenditure is expected to hit $210 billion this year alone. These data centers don't just need chips. They need massive amounts of electricity, driving U.S. industrial power prices up 22% in just 3 years. Simultaneously, moving factories back to North America is incredibly expensive. When you have this much demand for power and labor, you create structural heat in the economy. Think of R-star like an economy's thermostat. In the 2010s, the room was cold, so we kept the heat at zero. Now, with AI and reshoring pumping out massive energy, the Fed must keep the thermostat high just to keep the room from boiling over. If they drop rates too fast, they trigger an inflationary explosion because the neutral level is so much higher now. They are trapped by the very technology they hope will save the economy. If everyone is struggling with these high rates, who's actually winning? Follow the money. While traditional banks retreat from commercial real estate and small business loans, a new group of shadow landlords has stepped in. I'm talking about private credit, a $2.1 trillion market that has grown by nearly 70% in just 3 years. Players like Apollo and Blackstone love this high-rate environment. They're raising record-breaking $200 billion funds to lend at high yields to essential infrastructure projects. They've essentially become the new banking system. But without the pesky regulations or the need to offer you a 3% mortgage, they are locking in high returns on things the world literally cannot live without. And it's not just big funds. We're seeing the rise of real-world asset tokenization, growing over 400% recently. Institutional investors are buying digital versions of mortgages because they want to capture that 7% floor forever. The higher-for-longer trap isn't a trap for them, it's a gold mine. They are betting that you will be paying high interest for the rest of the decade, and they've positioned themselves to be the ones collecting the check. I know what you're thinking, we've seen this before. In the 80s, Paul Volcker jacked rates to 20% and fixed everything. But that comparison doesn't hold water. When Volcker swung his sledgehammer, the US had a manufacturing surplus and our debt to GDP was only 35%. We were lean. Today, we're at 120% debt to GDP with a $34 trillion tab. If the Fed tried to go to 20% today, the entire government would go insolvent just trying to pay the interest. Federal interest expense has already jumped 120% relative to GDP. The Fed can't use the sledgehammer anymore. Instead, they must use a slow, steady heat, keeping rates just high enough to slowly melt the debt's value through structural inflation of about 3 or 4%. This is why they talk about a soft landing. A soft landing isn't a return to the old world. It's a controlled entry into a high-rate, high-debt reality without the whole system snapping. They can't go back to zero, and they can't go much higher. They are stuck in a narrow corridor, and that corridor is lined with your 7% mortgage and your 5% savings account. So where does this leave us as we look toward 2030? The 3% mortgage isn't just away on vacation, it's history. It was a ghost of a deflationary era that is officially over. In this new cycle, housing is a game of inventory and cash flow rather than just waiting for the perfect rate. Your retirement strategy has to shift from growth at all costs to finding yields that can actually outrun 4% structural inflation. It's not all bad news, though. There is clarity and a new cycle. The death of the lie is the first step toward better financial planning. We are moving into a world where capital actually has a cost again, which means businesses have to be productive to survive. No more zombie companies living on free debt. That's a healthier foundation in the long run, even if the transition is painful right now. Stop waiting for 2021 to come back. It's not happening. Start looking at the world as it is, where 6% is the floor, not the ceiling. What's your read on where this is heading? Are you locking in your position? Or still betting on a return to zero? I'd love to hear your take in the comments. Let's get the debate going. I'll see you in the next one.